You know, the thing about where we are as a church now, you never reach those places where, you kind of like said yes to God's invitations and you've followed him one step at a time, left foot, right foot, walking, and then you suddenly find yourself in the forest, in a part of the forest that you've never been in before, and you ask yourself the question, how did we get here? Right? How did we get so involved in, raising up children and youth? How did we get to the place where we became an HLI site and are starting to do the leadership side of the leadership track as part of the pilgrimage? And so I tried to search that out and figure out where that came from. And one day I was praying about all of that as part of my regular time with God. And God took me back to a time when I first came into the Vineyard. I might have been Vineyard for all of 2 weeks when I went to a conference in Columbus, Ohio at Rich Nathan's church. And John Wimber was the speaker. I was brand new to the Vineyard. I was, to be honest, I was a skeptic. I had heard things about the Vineyard, and I was searching, I was seeking, but I came to the conference just starting to get to know Rich and some of the other people in the movement. And the conference was incredibly good. We were there for a whole week. But along the way, I kept hearing about the speaking voice of God and how God can just speak to you in real time and tell you things not only about your own life, but can speak into the lives of others, and which was, to be honest, at that time really new to me. And so we got to like Thursday of the conference. It was a week-long event. And as we got to the Thursday night, I just in frustration, not being able to understand this concept, I answered the call to prayer and went forward. There was probably 1,000 people at the conference, and I'd say half the room got up and went forward that night. So there was a crush at the front. And I was kind of deep in the crush. I didn't get right up there. And so when people came around to pray, I stood there for probably 15 to 20 minutes, and no one ever came around to pray for me. So I closed my eyes and opened my hands up, and I was really frustrated, dealing with a lot of skepticism in my own soul. And all of a sudden, someone came up behind me, put their hand on my shoulder, and started to pray for me. And I was really blessed by that. They just were praying silently and softly, inviting God to come. And I wondered how long it would go on. I was kind of new to these things. And then all of a sudden, I felt somebody come up and put their hands in my hands. I kept my eyes closed. And then I heard this woman, it sounded like a young woman, who began to like unpack some things for me. She began to pray, and she was getting more specific as she went along. The funnel was getting narrower and narrower, and I was beginning to really get interested as she was telling me things about my inner soul, about my own poverty of soul, the brokenness from my past, pain that I've been through, in an increasing specificity, to the point where I was just amazed. I was like, I'd never had anything like this happen to me before. And so I was so amazed that inside of me, I'm like, who in the world is this woman? And so I opened my eyes, and it was an 8-year-old boy. He'd just been encouraged by somebody on the prayer team to join them up front. And here is an 8-year-old boy in front of me, just unpacking my life for me in a way no one ever had, putting his finger on things that God needed to touch. And God said, that's where it started. See, I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of investing in that. I want to see more of that happening. And I want to see kids. I want us to be a movement that invests so much in children as they're growing up through the years that those kinds of things become the norm. So that's where it all started. God just showed that to me. It's just an amazing thing.